The loudspeaker spoke up and said, give up, give up, give up, give up, give up.
I'm Clyde Lewis, and this is Ground Zero. The numbers to call tonight, 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. Go to TalkStreamLive.com to find the full 3 hours of this program, the national 3 hours. On most of the radio stations that stream us, you'll be able to find us at TalkStreamLive.com. You want the full 5 hours condensed to 3 hours, you can go to SoundCloud.com/Ground Zero Media. That's SoundCloud.com/Ground Zero Media. Tonight's show is a show that's going to be very informative for you. For those of you especially who know what today is. Today, of course, is 420 Day. And even though today is the day where most people, talk about, smoking pot or going to parties and smoking pot, or at 420 lighting up a joint or whatever, there is a very serious side to marijuana. And you know that we've talked about it in a serious way. And we know that, a lot of people see it for what it is. It's a party drug, or it's a it's a drug that people use to get high, but there are a lot of other benefits to it. And that's the very tricky part here. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to do this show tonight, because, even though people are out there, partying, they're smoking, some people smoke pot for partying. There are people out there that use, marijuana for medicinal reasons, and, of course, for recreational reasons as well. And they're very, responsible. And, since Donald Trump's become president, people are questioning the fate of legal cannabis. And that is, whether or not they're going to crack down on, the feds are going to crack down on the use of marijuana. We have states that have made it legal. But there's another threat to marijuana, especially to growers and consumers. And that, of course, is a conspiracy to create big cannabis or big marijuana. That is marijuana that will be hijacked by big pharma. And it's hard to have a discussion about marijuana policies and not head towards the idea, well, this is all going to lead to something. Well, what's that? Big marijuana. It's going to lead to big pharma's tentacles in big marijuana. And that takes the fun out of any 420 celebration. It's a buzzkill, but it most certainly needs to be discussed. And I think it's important to be discussed because the reason is simple. Anything big pharma touches becomes a for-profit pile of crap. And, where the cannabis industry could fall under the control of a few macro corporations, this would create a substantial, it cost a substantial cost to be, social costs to be through the roof. It would also be hiding critical information from the public if they decide to put additives and they manufacture or manipulate the marijuana. There are several reasons to hate big pharma, and a lot of the maneuvers they're planning on, because we have seen what big tobacco has done to consumers in the 20th century. And so if we see big pharma move into this realm, I'm sure that we're all going to be, it is worrisome as to what the future holds for marijuana. It's now a Schedule I drug, which they say it's dangerous, but it's not dangerous. We don't know why they made it Schedule I, but I have an idea as to why, because many of you don't know, many of you do know that when we did a show about Monsanto a while back, I was talking about how there was a merger going to be happening between Monsanto and Bayer aspirin, originally IG Farben. Monsanto now appears to be developing genetically modified GMO forms of cannabis, although they'll tell you that they're not. The reason why they'll tell you that they're not is because they don't have their plants here in the United States. They are working on them in Uruguay right now. And so, GMO seeds patented for the market, just as they did with GMO corn and GMO soybeans, we'd be looking at a plant that would need to be legalized, but still tightly looked at enough and controlled that it could be captured by big corporate interests. And then competition would be suppressed by limiting access to homegrown marijuana, bringing production, sale, and use within monitored and regulated industry guidelines. And then, of course, there'd be a legislating of a definition of industrial hemp as a plant having such low psychoactivity that only GMO versions qualify. So it's very manipulative. Those are the sorts of conditions that critics have found buried in the fine print of the latest initiatives for cannabis legalization. And, patients who use cannabis in large quantities to heal serious diseases find that natural plant growth organically in sunlight is far more effective than hothouse plants or pharmaceutical cannabis derivatives. So I know that, if I say Monsanto is coming up with these new strains, this strain of Frankenweed, I call it, you can do some research and find that, yes, there are experiments going on right now that most certainly have shown that they're planning on merger. The reason why Bayer wants to merger with Monsanto is because they want to create their plants division, where they'll be having plants that they have genetically modified, and then they want to put them on the market. So tonight I have called upon the expertise of Daniel Lewis Crumpton, who is he's got a fine website called CannaSense. Medical marijuana, it's total wellness for the sake of this idea of putting it out there, making it legal for everyone. It's tested and refined and definitely legal. I will have him talk about it. But Daniel Lewis Crumpton, welcome to Ground Zero.
Clyde Lewis, man, you got the best strange sound effects on all the radio, man. I feel like I'm at a Hootie and the Blowfish concert.
Yeah, I don't do pyro though. I'd love to do pyro. I think that's next on my list.
Yeah, quick correction though. No, my website's downloadedcontent.com.
Okay.
And I'm a caregiver with a program called CannaSense. That's a relatively new cannabis collective that came out around 20 months ago. And this is something for me. I'm not speaking as a lawyer or doctor or anything like that. I'm speaking as somebody who is in need of medical cannabis. I openly talk about being a recovered alcoholic and somebody who has suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder. I also kicked a painkiller addiction for several years by the use of cannabis. And people like me and people like the caller who was on the air before I came on, we don't have time for state legislatures to make medical cannabis accessible to us. We don't have time for all of these politicians to get on board. So I was approached by some guys from CannaSense to be sponsored into the program. And these guys, they're Ron Paul guys, Liberty guys. These are people who have been in cannabis activism for 30 plus years. And they put their heads together and they basically what they've done for people like your last caller and people all across this country who need medical cannabis is they've created a legal framework that's been streamlined over 13 years to allow anyone in any of the 50 states to obtain a medical cannabis card that is legal and has to be recognized by all the other 50 states through what's called telemedicine. Essentially, the framework works like this. You have Article 4 of the Constitution, which basically, it says you have to have full faith and credit shall be given in each state to the public act. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm listening.
Each state has to give full faith and credit to the judicial proceedings of other states. So basically, it doesn't matter if I reside in the state of Georgia; they're not very cannabis friendly. So, but Georgia, if I become a California medical cannabis patient, has to respect and observe that's my status. So. The linchpin in this is how do I, somebody in Georgia, become a California patient? I don't really want to drive there. Don't really want to fly there. It's not very convenient for me. So we had to wait a while until Obamacare came out under the Affordable Health Care Act. And you can think of it what you will, but I'm the type of guy that works with what I can, right? Mm-hmm. It gave us a wonderful provision of telemedicine, which is you are able to see a doctor in California from the comfort and convenience of your own home through the internet to get a medical cannabis recommendation. So it doesn't matter where you're at in the United States, you can through the CannaSense program. And as a caregiver, I actually walk people through this. It's very, very simple. Basically, you schedule your appointment through a company called Presto Doctor. that works with CannaSense. They take appointments 7 days a week, around the clock, as far as I know. You speak with your doctor. There's a short questionnaire. Tell them what you're seeking medical cannabis for. Is it, anything from migraine headaches to insomnia, post-traumatic stress disorder, things like cancer? Do you have a child with autism? Just you fill out the questionnaire why you're seeking it. Whenever, you set the time for your appointment. When the appointment comes, you talk to your doctor through anything that's Skype capable. It's not Skype, but it's, if you have a phone or a tablet or a desktop, it's got a camera and a mic. You see your doctor, you talk to your doctor. He'll go over, a treatment plan for you. As soon as you get off with your doctor, when you're approved, you'll get a medical card in your email that you can use right away. You also get your recommendation, your treatment plan in your email. The next business day, you actually get your hard copies in the mail, and you can use those right away. So if people are interested in the information or to be sponsored into the program, you can go to downloadedcontent.com, click on the CannaSense Total Wellness tab up at the top. I actually put together a short tutorial video that walks you through the process on how you can do it yourself. And there's an article underneath there that talks about my experience with CannaSense too. So in less than 1 week, Clyde, I was able to schedule my appointment, talk to my doctor, get my medical card, and then have access to the CannaSense's apothecary. Now, this is where it gets really, really cool.
Okay, why don't we talk about the apothecary, which is the next phase? This is a fascinating thing because this is a way legally you can get marijuana even in states that aren't marijuana friendly. 888-673-3700. Back with more Ground Zero. Don't go away. I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero. I love bringing people into your world, people who I think are remarkable. Daniel Lewis Crumpton is one of those people. He is an author, he's a writer, podcaster, activist. His novel, Then Came the Flood, published in 2012, is an epic exploration of the events recorded most notably by books of Enoch and Genesis, as well as several texts from the New Testament and scriptures from every corner of the world, all of which highly suggest that our history on Earth most certainly had an intervention from otherworldly entities, both extraterrestrial and interdimensional, and the agenda of the Watchers to hybridize mankind may not be over. But tonight, we're here to talk about another project that Daniel Lewis Crumpton is a part of. He is currently putting his efforts as a caregiver behind the CannaSense Total Wellness Campaign by introducing and sponsoring those in need in order to get critical information. CannaSense is a medical cannabis collective that allows patients in all 50 states access to medical cannabis through a streamlined legal framework that is over 13 years in the making and offers members several legal safeguards to safely use their medicine regardless of what state they live in. It's downloadedcontent.com. Just click on the CannaSense link, and it's so amazing to have Daniel on the program to tell us about this. Now, we talked about how they can get the card, they can talk to a doctor. Now, what is the apothecary? How does that work?
The apothecary is, it's not a dispensary because CannaSense is a nonprofit. So the apothecary is where once you become a member, you actually can go in and you can purchase your medicine in any form, that is going to be beneficial to you. You can get it in the actual flowers, the sativa, the indica, or hybrids, for people who like to smoke it. If that's not your forte, if that's not the way you like to take your medicine, like I have a mom, she's got end-stage COPD, so she actually takes the cannabis capsules. Those last like 48 hours. It's a full body high, like you were talking about earlier. Yeah. Alleviates pain, anxiety, things like that. If people, like the edibles, candy bars, gummy bears, gummy worms, brownies, however you like to take it. There's also a wide variety of the CBD oils. For people who like to vape, you can basically, it's an endless variety of how you can take your medicine in the apothecary. And what's great about it, Clyde, is when you order it, all of this is very discreet. You're covered under HIPAA after you talk to your doctor. They ship it directly to your house in a discreet package straight to your door. So you don't have to, you don't have to interact with elements in your community that, street pharmacists that are probably pushing other stuff too. This is a way to get clean, non-GMO cannabis shipped straight to you. It's like I said, it's a miracle. and it's helping hundreds of people. So the apothecary, once you actually go to CannaSense, you can browse what they have to offer. And when you become a member, that's opened up to you. So
how does one become a member?
It's real easy. First, you have to schedule your appointment with Presto Doctor to get a medical cannabis recommendation. When you get that recommendation in your email, you want to go to the CannaSense site, and you want there's a sponsorship form. All the links are on downloadedcontent.com or at CannaSense. You fill out your information, and then you upload a picture ID so they know who you are, and your doctor's recommendation. To be just a patient, there is no cost. But if you become a full member, which is once I heard about the program, once I saw the results of the program, I went ahead and just did the full membership. I'm just that type of a guy. If I see something that's working, I'm very proactive that way. The full membership is $420. Once you're in it, there's a lot of perks. One of the perks is you get $300 worth of medicine right away. You never have to renew your recommendation. And you also get referrals if you bring other people in need in. So there's a lot of incentives for becoming a full member. But it's really that easy. I mean, it took me less than a week to get my doctor's recommendation, upload that to the CannaSense site with my sponsor's name, choose my welcome kit, and that was it.
That would save a lot of money on taking opioids or some other pain medicine at first, because I know that some of my medications that I have to purchase put me well over, anywhere between $200 and $300 a month, which is a lot of money for me because I still have other bills for my medical situation as well. So, I would say that, getting into a program like this, and you say you get at least $300 worth of medicine in the beginning anyway. And then the renewal, once a year? Is that how it happens or what?
Well, if you become a full member, no, there's no renewal. That's lifetime.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So you're in for life, and you get massive discounts on your medicine when you become a full member too. And what's great is when you tell somebody else in need, if you don't need medical cannabis, okay, but you do know somebody who does. You know somebody fighting cancer. Right. You know somebody with PTSD. When you bring them into the collective, you get, you'll get in commissions so that you can put that towards your medicine.
Oh, wow.
So
it's just a win-win group because that way. Yeah, and it is legal, right? You're telling me that because of what loophole in the law are you using quickly? Any idea?
Well, CannaSense is using a series of laws that already exist. The Compassionate Use Act of 1996, the Article 4 of the Constitution, and telemedicine. But it goes way deeper than that.
Okay.
There's no time here to go through it, but here's what's really...
Let's go through some of it. We're going to take a break. Let's go through some of it on the break, because this is fascinating. I've never heard about this before. And I want to get to the GMO marijuana, too, talk about that coming up. But I really, really am interested in all of this because this is a lot of people have been calling tonight, wondering how they can get help, wondering what can happen in their not-so-friendly marijuana state. So we'll be back with more. 888-673-3700. Daniel Lewis Crumpton here tonight on Ground Zero. CannaSense. We'll be right back.
You want to get high? No.
I'm Clyde Lewis. To Ground Zero. The numbers to call tonight, 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. Tonight, Daniel Lewis Crumpton's with us on 420. Day of celebration for some. Tonight, a day of information for all of us. Those of us that need a little help in the pain department and also want to know what the future holds for the laws, marijuana laws, recreational marijuana laws, and, of course, Daniel's been talking about CannaSense, and it's a very good program. And he was talking about doctors, legality, the apothecary, the costs, and you were going to get into something else. You're talking about some of the products that are offered. Is that what you're going to talk about next?
Well, one of the things that I did really want to stress, I do a weekly thing with Chuck O'Celli, the O'Celli Effect on American Freedom Radio, and a lot of the concerns that have come up is the legalities to it. Something I really want to stress to people, when you do become a member of the CannaSense Collective, you actually come into a legal defense team with you. CannaSense they stand behind the legal framework in which CannaSense is built, that if the state ever moves against any of the members in any way or harasses them, you have a legal defense team that is paid for, that will exonerate you. And if it ever goes to a jury trial, they'll exonerate you there and set precedent in your state. Now, since the company's been out, no one has had any trouble whatsoever. And that's something that I want everybody out there to know about, is that this comes with several legal safeguards. So, that's an extra bonus for it. As myself, I have to report to the state every month. And this was something that was very concerning to me, is how is this really going to fly? So I personally have tested this legal framework and being a member of this cannabis collective myself with agents of the state of Georgia who are not friendly to cannabis, and I had no problem whatsoever. So
that's great. And I'm sure this is very valuable for those who want to are seriously thinking about moving forward. And of course, as I said at the beginning of the program, it seems that, with everything that's being talked about right now, from how Sean Spicer had to go back on what he said about medical marijuana, and the fact that the president during the campaign said something that he wanted to keep medical marijuana as a possibility. It seems to me that the whole debate on medical marijuana, whether or not it should be legalized, the legalization process, or the idea of getting legal medical marijuana, has won, and it's winning. It's winding down now to where at least the states will legalize medical or medicinal marijuana. But the problem here is that we still have that Schedule 1, problem that's hanging over it. And the thing that worries me is that, Bayer AG, or Bayer Aspirin Company, and Monsanto have decided to merge. And by 2018, they're going to be merging together. And I do know, even though Monsanto says, no, that's not true, but it is, that there are right now experimenting with GMO marijuana in Uruguay right now. And that since it's legal to grow and to distribute marijuana in Uruguay, they're basically, they want to get it off Schedule 1. They want to legalize it, and then they want to bring it into production. But the problem we're looking at here with Monsanto and Bayer is monopoly. They're worried that there's going to be some monopoly problems, and that there are all sorts of conditions that you look in the fine print and you're saying that patients who use the cannabis, who use it in large quantities to heal serious diseases, and they find that natural plant growth is better than this corporate plant growth, they're going to be out, because hothouse plants for pharmaceutical cannabis derivatives, they say they're not as effective as those that are naturally grown in sunlight or organically grown in sunlight. So what do you have to say to that? I mean, is that true that that even though hothouse plants may work, it's the sunlight organic growing that makes it work better?
Well, I think that's for one thing, when I'm a spiritual guy, I like to look at scriptures, and if you look at, like, in the Bible, it talks about sorcery and the evil of sorcery. When you look that word up, it actually means pharmakia, which is where we get our word pharmacy. It talks about how we're all deceived and lulled into a trance by sorcery, which means pharmacy. So I don't want anything that is perfect the way that nature created it being tampered with so we could put a dollar sign on it. I mean, when big industry start getting into anything, like when I started smoking, when I was 14 or 15, I knew it was bad. I knew it was a bad thing. Mm-hmm. But then they wanted to help us out and keep us from burning ourselves to death in our sleep. So they did the fire safe cigarettes. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that's just mean, because now you have to puff on it like a lot more, and you get more addicted. Then you're up to 3 packs a day. Right. So anytime big money, big pharma, Monsanto and these corporations get their hands in anything, it's always to distort it, to corrupt it, to change the nature of what it is, to, for the love of money. And like you said earlier, man, they don't care how long your lifespan is. They just want you for life. That's right. And the weaker you are mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, the better. And And so, I'm not a huge, I couldn't tell you different breeds and different strains and what's the best. Some people are real enthusiastic about cannabis. Mm-hmm. Here's what I know. I know that I don't have any symptoms of PTSD, and I know I could sleep at night. And I know that comes from farmers that are doing it out in the open. Underneath the sunlight. I mean, as above, so below, as within, so without. I think everything really gets its sustenance from the sun that's worth its salt. Definitely.
The natural way is the best way. I want to point out something to the listeners, and maybe you know this, maybe you don't. F. William Engdahl actually has written several tomes about the growing policies and the experiments going on in Uruguay. With Monsanto has connected George Soros and others to the Monsanto growth process, Bill Gates and others. Engdahl observes, he wrote, the connection between the legalization of marijuana in Uruguay, Monsanto, and George Soros. He wrote, Engdahl, he said that in 2014, Uruguay became the first country to legalize the cultivation, sale, and consumption of marijuana. Soros is a major player in Uruguay and was instrumental in getting the law passed. He sits on the board of the New York-based Drug Policy Alliance, the world's most influential organization for cannabis legalization. The DPA is active not only in the U.S., but in Uruguay and other Latin American countries. And he writes this. This is what he says. He says this, quote, studies show that Monsanto, without much fanfare, conducts research projects on the active ingredient in marijuana, namely THC, in order to genetically manipulate the plant. David Watson of the Dutch company Hortifarm has since 1990 created the world's largest collection of cannabis seed varieties. In 1998, the British firm GW Pharmaceuticals signed an agreement with Hortifarm that gives GW Pharma the rights to use the Hortifarm cannabis for their research. In 2003, the German Bayer AG then signed an agreement with GW Pharmaceuticals for joint research on cannabis-based extract. In 2007, Bayer AG agreed to an exchange of technology with Monsanto, which has discrete access to the work of the cannabis plant and to its genetic modification. In 2009, GW Pharmaceuticals announced that it had succeeded in genetically altering a cannabis plant and patented a new breed of cannabis seeds. In March 2016, last year, Monsanto approached Bayer AG with a joint venture proposal concerning its crop science unit. Monsanto's proposed merger with Bayer is expected to be completed by the second quarter of 2018, but only if it gets the green light from antitrust authorities. You see, they worry about a monopoly. So the prospective merger would create the world's largest supplier of seeds and chemicals. Environmentalists worry that the entire farming industry could soon be looking at sterile crops that are soaked in dangerous pesticides. Monsanto has sued hundreds of farmers for simply saving seeds from year to year, something they have done for millennia. Organic farmers are finding it increasingly difficult to prevent contamination of their crops by Monsanto GMOs. So now what we're looking at here, Daniel, genetic engineering, moving from foodstuffs to plant-based drugs to plant-based industrial fibers. And so you see why Monsanto's merger with Bayer is so important. They certainly want to be able to corner the market on marijuana, and this is how we get the Schedule 1 taken down, is they have rich pundits demanding it be taken down so they can start selling it. So there's a slippery slope, and removing that Schedule 1 moniker for marijuana, it would then give these corporate interests a chance to corporatize and compartmentalize and maybe even add bad additives to marijuana.
It sounds like a race to me, and we better get ahead of the curve.
I think
that's all I'm saying.
I would agree.
We have a window of an opportunity right now, and I wouldn't be pushing CannaSense as much as I am if I didn't believe that it was revolutionary in giving us a significant head start of these guys before they start doing this. I mean, genetically modified foods that do we have it on the label? Do we not have it on the label? It seems like they want to genetically modify everything, which in turn, ultimately, we know that's genetically modifying us. To what ends? Well, we could go down that rabbit hole. I got theories. I'm sure you got theories. I'm sure everybody out there's got theories, but they clearly want something done on a genetic level. And as our culture is rediscovering the benefits of cannabis, they're desperately scrambling to get in on that market. And we need to stop waiting on politicians and legislatures and go ahead and use some Ninth Amendment power, some personal sovereignty, some personal nullification of federal and state laws, and do this ourselves. Like I said earlier, man, me and other people who are suffering, who need medical cannabis, we don't have time to wait for people who are trying to pad their pockets.
Right. I was going to say there's another slippery slope to all this, too. If they genetically modify marijuana and they genetically modify the seeds, this keeps control on local growers. And according to President Mujica in Uruguay, it would be used to curb any black market type of sales of marijuana. So this is the excuse that they'll tell you. They'll say, well, if we have these genetically modified seeds and we have genetically modified marijuana crops, we'll be able to control the black market. So that would be another reason to take it off Schedule 1, is because they wouldn't have the drug cartels to worry about anymore, because they'd make illegal anything that would be grown naturally or homegrown or with a group. And then they would Schedule 1 and say, okay, but we have corporate people like R.J. Reynolds and we have Monsanto and Bayer that want to give you marijuana. And this is something that it's just worrisome to me. It scares me to death that this could happen because of what happened with the tobacco industry. We're going to be back more tonight with Daniel Lewis Crumpton here on Ground Zero. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. It's 420. And we're talking serious about cannabis tonight on Ground Zero. We'll be back.
FM News 101 KXL.
I'm getting older.
Daniel Lewis Crumpton's with us tonight on Ground Zero. CannaSense, and he's telling us about this new revolutionary way that if you are in a state that's not marijuana friendly, you can get your own. Got a question here from Matt, who just sent me a message here on Facebook. He said, what if you're in a state where medical marijuana is legal and no medical card is required? Can you still join CannaSense?
Yes, you can.
Okay. So it helps what, in the apothecary sense?
The apothecary sense. It also helps, with the legal defense thing if you want that. And with social media now, we all know people who are in states that are not cannabis friendly. So just by referring them, you get discounts on your own medicine. So it's beneficial there. The guys who are at the top of CannaSense, I talked to them personally. I wouldn't be pushing it as much as I am if I hadn't kind of got a feel for where they're at. And essentially, the bottom line of CannaSense is go out, tell as many people, and get them well. That's the entire mission statement, in my opinion, of CannaSense, is we are trying to get people better as fast as we can, as safe as we can, with quality non-GMO cannabis.
That's great.
And so, yeah, if you're in a state that it's already legal, actually a lot of people that I have already sponsored into the program are in states where it's legal. And so they see the benefit after looking at the program, and they're signing up too. So, yeah, yeah, go ahead and sign up, even if you're in a state that's it's already legal.
That's amazing. Let's go to Frank in Maine. Hi, Frank. You're on Ground Zero with Daniel Lewis Crumpton. Go ahead.
Hi, Clyde. Thank you for taking my call. First-time caller, a long-time listener.
Thank you.
And I suffer from a chronic neuropathy called CIDP. I don't know if you've ever heard of it. And it's a neuropathy in my legs and feet, and suffering from severe pain. And I was on Oxy for about 2 years. It didn't do anything. And I also go for infusion treatments every 2 days, every other week. And I'd spoken to my doctor about the medical marijuana, because I live in Maine and it is legal in the state. But he told me my disease doesn't qualify for that. And he told me I could try the CBC oils.
CBD oils, yeah.
In a smoke shop, he told me, which I haven't tried yet, but I just heard of this program, listening to your show tonight. Great show.
Well, thank you.
And, this seems real interesting to me, because like I said, I suffered in some severe pain all the time, and nothing really helps it,
Well, I would say look into CannaSense. This is a remarkable breakthrough. That's why I have Daniel on the program. Daniel, tell him about how you can get involved with CannaSense.
Well, I'm going to tell everybody out that the first thing you can do is go to downloadedcontent.com. Click on the CannaSense Total Wellness at the top. Right there, a pop-up box will come up on your screen after about 7 seconds. You put your information in there and what you need, and I personally will get a hold of you and walk you through it. As far as your doctor in I think you said Maine, certain states who are legalizing it for medicinal uses have very small lists of disorders or ailments that you can be approved with. But we're going to bypass all that with CannaSense and get you to a California doctor, make you a California patient who they're very generous in which disorders or treatments they can recommend you cannabis for. So my suggestion to you, because here in Georgia there's a very small scope of disorders that they're kind of looking at, PTSD is not one of them. And so that's an area that was concerning to me. So I said, I'm not going to wait for these guys in Atlanta. I'm just going to go ahead and talk to a doctor in California that I already know is going to approve me for PTSD and recovered alcoholism. And so I got it done just like that, and I got access to my medicine.
So Frank, downloadedcontent.com, go there, click on the CannaSense link, and you'll be able to get hooked up. And Daniel said he'll walk you through it. So there you go. Thank you, Frank.
That sounds great. Just another quick thing.
I'm out of time. I'm out of time, Frank. I'm sorry. I'm out of time. We'll be back. Clyde Lewis, Crumpton is my guest tonight. CannaSense. I have someone on my Facebook page. I wanted to talk about this with you, Daniel. And he seems pretty angry about this. He says, I heard radio show today about CBD. I don't know if your show is misinformed, but you had mentioned CBD is illegal in most states. That's completely false. CBD made from hemp oil is legal in all 50 states. You can buy it at reputable online websites, too. It was Schedule 2 lamps. It was Schedule 2 lamps a decade ago, and then it was taken off the illegal substances list long ago. I'm not talking about industrial hemp oil. I'm not talking about CBD hemp oil. I'm talking about CBD oil with cannabis oil from medical marijuana high in THC. Is that legal? I don't think it's legal.
You're asking me?
Yeah, I mean, I've always thought that if you're getting CBD oil, cannabis oil from a marijuana plant high in THC, where the levels are just as high in the CBD category, that is illegal. I mean, I know that hemp oil has been very legal. In fact, I have some in my house. But I always thought that, because whenever I mention CBD to people saying, hey, CBD benefits from cannabis is amazing, they say, well, I can't use it because it will show up in a urine test. And of course, the feds don't like you using stuff like that, but the states will make it very legal. But heck, I know that hemp oil is legal, and so I don't know if I'm confusing the two, but I always thought that if you were using CBD oil from cannabis that is that's comparative to the THC content of a plant, then you are looking at an illegality. So I don't know, unless somebody can correct me on this. That's how I've always understood the law.
Well, I'm not quite sure. I'm not really into CBD oils. I use the flowers myself, which does have THC in it. Yeah. And like I said, I have to report to the state every month, and a urinalysis is a part of the deal there. And so all I know is that in the state of Georgia, I spoke with my probation officer. I'm not ashamed to say that or anything. I mean, you're in Georgia, you're a political activist, you're going to be on probation. I'm sorry. And I just went over with my probation officer and said, look, this is the deal. Here's my card. Here's my recommendation. I'm going to use my 9th Amendment to go ahead and heal myself. And they didn't have a problem with it at all. And in fact, they encouraged me to help others. So the legalities of it, as far as CBD oils versus a flower, I'm not quite sure. I don't use the CBD oils. I use the flower myself, which does have THC in it. And I don't have any problems as a member of CannaSense with it.
Right. And, everything's new now. I mean, and like I said, this guy is telling me that, you're putting out false information. I did not clarify hemp as opposed to cannabis. And so, yeah, I know that hemp oil is available, but cannabis oil, CBD oil, I do not know if the CBDs from cannabis with high content of THC are legal. If anybody wants to correct me on that, I don't want to put out false information. So anyway, we're going to go to the calls right now. Let's go to Dustin in Texas. Hi, Dustin. You're on Ground Zero.
Hi, thanks, Daniel and Clyde, for taking my call. First-time caller, first-time listener, actually. I tuned in, and I'm really interested in CannaSense. I have a relative that has multiple sclerosis, and we're in the state of Texas, which isn't friendly towards cannabis, and she's interested in trying something as far as cannabis goes to help multiple sclerosis. And I was curious, do you guys have members that are in Texas, and are these members having trouble with the law enforcement here?
Yes, I've signed up people personally that are in Texas, and like I said, since the foundation of CannaSense, there hasn't been one single incident of anyone having any trouble with law enforcement whatsoever. But in the event that if it does ever happen, they'll have the protections of the legal defense team, at their beck and call.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, I just wanted to hear that. I appreciate the information tonight. I would think I would have heard it sooner, but
well, I'll tell you what, man. If you really appreciate it, spread it to everybody who can benefit and get well with it. So that's the best way to appreciate it.
Downloadablecontent.com.
Absolutely.
Content.com. That's where you go. All right. Thank you. Let's go now to Brandon in Texas. Hi, Brandon. You're on Ground Zero.
Hello again, Clyde.
Hello.
Hey, I just wanted to throw a couple points. You're talking about Facebook on this guy about CBD. I do go to a vape shop. I vape. I've been vaping for a few years. Quit smoking for 12 years after, I've been vaping since. I do get a hemp oil from the vape shop that is 100% CBD, but there's 0 THC on it, and I've been told that is illegal. And that,
hemp oil's illegal? That hemp oil's illegal? Hemp oil?
No, the one with, if it has THC in it, that it's not, you cannot purchase that. Okay.
Because that's what I was thinking, is they find, little, parts of THC in your CBD when you're using cannabis oil, and so that's what I meant. I didn't mean that, they're going to bar you from getting hemp oil.
Yeah, and he's, FDA has really been cracking down on the vape store that I go to that has, like you're talking about the CBD rub and stuff, like that you put on your joints, and they have that there, and a couple of different other ones. But I was there one time, and they say the FDA is cracking down on them. They try to catch them selling the THC. They do like the secret collar and stuff. Mm-hmm. And I'm a big marijuana activist. My great grandparents are actually featured in High Times. They were busted in Missouri. It's like one of the biggest marijuana busts in the history of that state, or something like that back then. And I also have a cookbook. It's by S.T. Warner. It's a chef book, and it teaches you how to make that butter and make your own liquor and stuff using that. In like Colorado, that would be really helpful, and all that if people were interested in making their own, because you can also do that.
Yeah, in legal states like the state I'm in, it's amazing to see just what can be made. Caramel chews, chocolate.
Yes,
even ice cream. They have marijuana ice cream. So I mean,
yes, sir.
You can and it tastes like regular ice cream. Yeah, go ahead, Dan.
Clyde, you would love this. CannaSense also offers cannabis coffee.
Yeah, see, I've heard about that too. In fact, I've heard of cannabis coffee. That's amazing. Yeah.
Also, Trump, he also said, like, when he was running, that he would support state law as well. So I mean, if it came down to states, it would. I don't think we'd have to really worry about federal laws under Trump.
The federal can push it, believe me. I mean, if you work, like, for example, smoking marijuana in your house, if you're living in federal housing, they clamp down on you about that. Smoking marijuana outside in your home or outside on the patio, if somebody wanted to go after you for the smell, they could call the police. The police could push it at a federal level.
They do that. Yeah, they have that sniffer and everything, too, that sniffs it out.
So you have to be careful, and be very discreet. I mean, even though, marijuana is legal in Oregon, people still are very discreet about using marijuana. I mean, the other day I was walking down the street and I smelled somebody smoking a joint, but, I wouldn't bet a police officer would come by and bust them, but I certainly would think the police officer would say something to the effect that, if a federal officer was around here, you'd probably be busted. And that's the thing. It's just like, it's this untenable type of confusion between the federal law and the state law. And that's why, when I say that, CBD oil may be illegal. I just hear from a lot of people who don't want to use it because they're afraid they're going to get knocked around by the feds. I know a lot of bus drivers that are in a lot of pain, and they say, well, we can't do it because where I work, they'll take a urine test and I'll be out of a job.
Man, no, not everybody reacts to it the same. I've heard stories of people, going off the rails, but also, that now that it's legal in some states, people are getting to toy with it and make strains with high THC, and people can't handle it, I suppose. But I also want to comment on Daniel saying that he really likes your intros, and I'm glad you played that Donald Trump, because if I was on last, I would have been telling you to play it because I think you would really like it also. We had a good giggle at the same time when he said that.
Well, Brandon, thank you for calling the program. Really appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Take care. Let's go to Aaron in South Dakota. Hi, Aaron. You're on with Daniel Lewis Crumpton. Go ahead. Aaron,
hey.
Hi. You're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, Clyde. Love the show. How you doing tonight?
Doing great, man. Say hi to Daniel.
Hey, Daniel. How you doing, man?
Better than it was yesterday, bro.
All right. But anyway, so why I was calling is we have the most messed up laws for pot in South Dakota. You will literally go to jail for possession of marijuana and not have anything on you. They have what's known as ingestion law here, where you will go down and they will strap you down, make you take a UA, and then charge you with possession, even though you don't have anything.
If you've ingested it.
Yeah. Say you smoked a joint and it's all gone and a cop smelt it. He will take you down to the police station and make you take a UA, and they can charge you with ingestion. And you will go to jail for your first offense.
It's just bizarre. That's why, programs like CannaSense is around. That way you can avoid, that kind of thing. And Daniel said, a legal team. You have a legal team behind you too. So you can push the issue, if you're in South Dakota and you need it and they decide they want to, press charges against you, that they'll show that, you have a medical marijuana card and that you're being treated by a doctor. So maybe something to look into, Aaron.
Yeah, but this whole thing is we don't have a medical law here.
They do in California.
I guess I didn't.
That's how you do it. Yeah, that's how you do it.
Yeah. Article 4 of the Constitution is going to put you under the protection of the Compassionate Use Act in California, regardless of the state that you're in.
That's how it works.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
I need to look into that.
Yeah, you need to look into it. Yeah. Look into it. Where's the website again, Daniel? Where do they go to get this information and check it out?
It's downloadedcontent.com, kind of like my initials, DLC. See, there's a little connection there. Yeah, and click on the CannaSense Total Wellness tab at the top, and all the information's there. And you put your information in, man, and let me know what you need, and I will get a hold of you. Daniel
Lewis Crumpton, right here on Ground Zero. It's 420 day, and you're getting information you never thought you'd get, and we're giving it to you tonight. A little serious about this stuff. It's not always fun and games. A lot of people are in need of it. They need it for their health, and we're giving you some opportunities to try and find it. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. It's all legal, too. We'll be back.
More with Clyde Lewis and Ground Zero on FM News 101.
Daniel Lewis Crumpton with us tonight on Ground Zero. CannaSense going to Max in Oregon. Hi, Max. You're on Ground Zero.
Hey, Clyde. How's it going?
Going well, man.
Been a long time since we talked, but it sounded like you had some questions I could help you out with.
Yes, please help me. I want to know about, now I know that hemp oil in a lot of cases is legal, and CBD and hemp oil is legal, but if you're dealing with cannabis oil with any traces of THC in it, you're dealing with illegal substance. Am I correct?
You are correct.
Okay.
I've been, let's just put it this way. July 4th, 2000, I woke up blind one day. I found out I had multiple sclerosis then. The only way I could get my sight back was from ingesting cannabis oil after a bunch of failed IV treatments. They almost killed me. So over the years, I've learned, and about 8 years after I got my sight back, one day I got ran over by a school bus, and I wound up with horrible, I was trapped by my side from an unmanned school bus, for 43 minutes before the paramedics or the fire department found the driver and got the keys. So I've been through some hell, but what I can tell you, I think you need to know, and the listeners need to know, is I don't care if you've got CannaSense, I don't care if you've got the Oregon Medical Marijuana Program or any one of these states. If you're on a narcotic pain medication regimen of any kind, they do not check for CBD. They do not scan whether it's hemp or it's cannabis derived, but they do check for THC. And I don't care anything you've got. Right now, it's not federally illegal to take cannabis and a narcotic painkiller, but there's only one doctor that I know in this state and in other states that actually practices apothecary with pain management. So what I'm scared of is I don't want a lot of listeners to go out and do this and be on pain medication or some type of urinalysis like a UDS, because they're going to get busted and their life's going to turn upside down.
I got to tell you this, Max, and this is something I want to let everybody know about. You know, yep. I am on. I have a pain agreement with my doctor, right. And that pain agreement is very strict. And the situation is that whenever I start talking about marijuana, CBD, or anything else on my program, you know, I got a warning, not from my doctor, but from somebody else saying that if at any time they test me and they do a pill count or a testing on any of my opioids I may be taking, if at any time they find THC in my system, they'll cut me off from my narcotics, and I will not be able to get them ever again.
Yeah, you will be blacklisted for at least 2 years.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is that it's a difficult thing because sometimes, you know, I'd like to say, I mean, I've used CBD oil before, I've used CBD butter before to get rid of pain, but that was because I was trying it just to see if it'd work. I mean, I'm not a habitual user of it, but the thing is that whenever they listen, I mean, I know they listen to my show because I'm number one in Portland, Oregon. So I mean, 1 in 3 people are listening to me right now. But, you know, when anybody who is in my doctor's office heard me talking about marijuana, heard me talking about anything like that, they told me, it says, you better watch it because if we find any in your system, we'll take away all your opioid privileges. And I said, well, I'm on a pain agreement. I'm not using that. And so, yeah, I haven't tested positive for any of it because I haven't used it in a long time. But still, you know, things are wonky. And that's the whole point, is that if Daniel, you have this program. You know, I hope it does take the wonkiness out of all this. As I said, the laws now are untenable. They're not clear on a lot of things. And so, you know, you can say that CBD on one hand, if it's hemp CBD is legal, but then there's the THC content we have to worry about with the CBD, and that makes it illegal. You're running into a lot of murky areas here, Daniel.
Yeah, what I like to do is, you know, I like to go by the Constitution, which is the supreme law of the land. And as far as I know, you know, there's 3 Supreme Court cases: Marbury versus Madison, Murdoch versus Pennsylvania, and Shuttlesworth versus Alabama. Those have never been overturned, which essentially says that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land, and no lesser legislature like a state or whatnot can come along and write any law that contradicts the supreme law of the land, because if they do, it's a nullity, it's null and void of law, and the citizen can enact in their right without impunity. That's just kind of what I go by. I don't really pay too awful much attention to state law anyway because of those Supreme Court rulings. The Constitution is still the supreme law of the land. That's just me. That's the avenue that I personally take. Like I said, I'm a Ninth Amendment type of guy. And so I don't really wait for government to give me permission to do what I already have a right to do. I just assume that those rights are given to me by a creator, and I walk in that. So, but I do encourage everybody to walk their own path. You know, if being compliant with state laws and doctors, I don't go to doctors, so I don't know what a pain agreement is. It sounds kind of morbid to me. I don't know what that is.
Well, I'll tell you what it is. It's the DEA turning your doctor into a spy. That's exactly what it is. Max, thank you for the call. That's exactly what it is. It's the turning your doctor and your pharmacist into a spy and making sure that you're not taking too many pills or selling them, which believe it or not, a lot of senior citizens, they sell their pain pills because they can't afford to eat, nor can they afford their bills. So sometimes they get a lot of pain pills and they sell them, and that's another problem for opioid use. We have the opioid epidemic. We have people selling opioids on they're selling them personally to other people, and this is why we have these pain agreements. This is why we have doctors and the pharmacists spying on you. It's the surveillance state. We'll be back.
With all of my heart that it is a contributing factor to our juvenile delinquency epidemic.
I'm Clyde Lewis. You're listening to Ground Zero. We've come a long way since the days of reefer madness. And here we are with Daniel Lewis Crumpton talking about CannaSense, amazing program to help people who live in states that aren't marijuana friendly get the treatments they need, medical marijuana. Today is 420, the unofficial or official day of those who celebrate the use of cannabis. And we're going to go to Carl in Nevada. Hi, Carl. You're on Ground Zero with Daniel Lewis Crumpton. Go ahead.
Yeah, Clyde, I've talked to you before. I'm a clinical psychologist. As to do with marijuana and so forth, I am very much in favor of medical marijuana. Unfortunately, I'm not in favor of just plain recreational, walk into a store and buy marijuana. There's enough people driving drunk from alcohol, from having problems like that, taking other pills, and then taking marijuana. And I feel that drugs should not be penalized just as a drug itself, but the reaction that comes from you taking it, your actions should be penalized. If you take marijuana or a drug and kill somebody in a car, hit them or something, you're responsible for that, not the drug.
That's intoxication, and if you're driving while intoxicated, that should be against the law. Being a clinical psychologist, Carl, wouldn't you say that this country would be better off if we took the criminality out of drug abuse and make it a health issue?
Yeah, definitely so. But like I'm saying, you're still responsible for your own actions. And
we're not denying that. I'm just saying that the problem I'm having is that just being your own home high or using it for medicinal purposes and having a big misunderstanding with the feds, you turn around and we're busting people, throwing them in jail for having a plant in a pipe that they're smoking, and it's not causing anyone any trouble. No one's getting harmed. No one's getting hurt. No one dies or overdoses from using this material. And yet, we have such strict, horrible laws making it a Schedule 1. I mean, that's insane. I mean, look, if you're drinking alcohol and you're driving, you're dangerous. If you're smoking pot and you're driving, you're dangerous. But if you're just smoking pot in your own home and you're utilizing your right to imbibe or use whatever you need to use, if there is a dependence or a psychological dependence, that's where you come in. It's a health issue, not a law and order issue. And I think that the war on drugs has definitely it's completely lost. Medical marijuana is winning, and and I've been seeing every once in a while shows on the cable channels where we're watching police officers doing drug busts. And anymore, I see that and I laugh because I'm thinking, oh, how big are you? You pulled a bunch of plants out of the backyard of somebody's house and now you're going to put them in jail. It just doesn't make any sense to me. I think that if it's a thing that works for your health, if it's something that's helping people, why is it they're doing this to people?
Yeah, well, obviously also it's costing the country a huge fortune with incarcerating a lot of these people. It's absolutely ridiculous in some forms. But like I said before, it comes to marijuana is one thing, but there are higher drugs and opioids and so forth that I'm kind of against because they do brain damage, sort of killing certain brain cells much quicker than marijuana can do.
Well, actually,
and you got to be very
when I became a cannabis activist, it was after I lost my father to over-the-counter pain relievers. He developed an ulcer, and that's how I lost my father. He didn't believe in prescription painkillers either, but he would have been put in jail into a privately owned prison for partaking of a plant that nobody's ever died of. That's what I find ridiculous about state laws.
Yeah, I think Carl agrees that, because I mean, being a clinical psychologist, you could probably attest to the fact that opioids also depress the system, and many people fall into deep depressions while being on opioids. Am I correct, Carl?
Yeah. Well, yes, but most people who commit suicide are extremely depressed.
Yeah.
They're not overjoyed. They're not overjoyed. They're in extreme state of depression.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's very dangerous at that point, because they sometimes act on their thoughts. Out of suicide, 90% of people who commit suicide are in extreme depression.
Right. And if we're alleviating that depression in some way with, with something like marijuana, I don't see any problem with it. And that's the thing.
No.
Yeah,
definitely.
You just need to be responsible. I mean, I wouldn't be going out if I was on, Ambien and Xanax and a number of other pills that depress my system. You don't think I'll be behind the wheel of a car? And I certainly wouldn't be on the air either. So, I mean, that's responsibility.
I had a sister-in-law who was bipolar, and she took Ambien and a few other things, and she committed suicide anyway.
Wow.
So you got to jumped off the sixth story of a hotel in Las Vegas here. Anyway, but so what I'm saying is, the only other thing I have against that, too, is a lot of doctors, they've got to be careful. There are a lot of crooked doctors. I've seen places where people lined up around the block to get marijuana prescriptions for health use, and the doctor doesn't even look at them. They just write a prescription. They pay them and they write a prescription. You got to be very careful of those type of operations, too.
Well, we have the defense. According to Daniel, they have a defense team that protects them. So apparently they have good lawyers that basically back the system up. So if people are really in need of this type of treatment, they can have it. It's made available to them. And I think, as long as it's legal and there are no problems with that, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, it's just one more way that people who are in need of this treatment get the treatment. And, I have nothing against them. I mean, I learned very easily that marijuana works, especially after I had my kidney cancer, because when they cut into me, I didn't want to eat because I had so much pain and scarring in the area. I didn't get the little cut where they go in and blow me open. No, they cut clear across, and so I was there.
Well, I had kidney cancer also.
Oh wow!
And I had a so-called clear cell carcinoma. And my right kidney, I had to have a partial nephrectomy. But luckily, the surgeon I used what's called robotic surgery, which they put 3 little holes in the front.
Yeah.
The camera goes in one hole, the knife goes in another, and he sits at a console away from the table instead of cutting you all open.
See, they used Da Vinci. They used Da Vinci arms on me too, but they had to cut me completely open. So I mean, I've had what is it? I've had 3 partial nephrectomies. One on one kidney and 2 on another kidney. So that's my story.
So how's your kidney function?
They're fine. In fact, my doctor said they look plump and good enough to eat. I thought it was kind of gross, but he said that's how good they look. So.
Well, you better get some onions with it too.
Is your Dr. Lecter?
I'll leave you with one last thought.
Okay, Carl.
President Trump was in Miami, and he was going to take a yacht. He chartered to go down to the Bahamas, but he was on it for a while. When he got up past, all of a sudden he looked out the window and he saw the Statue of Liberty, and he said, "Better tell the captain this ship is going in the wrong direction." So I thought you like that.
Yeah. Very good, Carl. Talk to you soon. Take care. Bye-bye. Let's go to Eric in Oklahoma. Hi, Eric. You're on with Daniel Lewis Crumpton. Go ahead.
Butter beans and a nice Chianti.
That's exactly right. My kidneys are yummy.
I suffer from high blood pressure, and my friend is got glaucoma. He was going to go, he lives in Arkansas, he was going to get his medical marijuana card, but he found out that as soon as you do that, it strips you of your right to keep and bear arms nationally.
That's something, that's something that's very interesting, Eric. You're right. Here's the deal about Second Amendment, Daniel, and I don't know if you know about this, but it's either or, man. If you have a medical marijuana card, they're trying to keep you from having a gun.
Yeah, the state of Georgia a few years ago, they really stuck it to the veterans, anybody with post-traumatic stress disorder, where they've tried to make it difficult to, bear arms. That's a shoddy deal, but at the end of the day, like I said, this is me personally. I'm not telling you guys what to do, but I'm a Ninth Amendment guy. I don't acknowledge anything that the state comes along and says that is contradictory to my rights, which are inherent by my Creator and enumerated in the Constitution. So I have a medical cannabis card. I have post-traumatic stress disorder, and I got guns.
Wow. So you still have a gun? Yeah, go ahead.
Have you had any associations with or any run-ins with law enforcement while carrying a weapon at any point in time?
Say that again, Eric. You're not talking directly in your phone.
Yeah, have you had any run-ins with law enforcement with your card and possibly having a weapon on your side at the same time?
Have you ever run into the? Have you run into the law, Daniel? Have you gotten any static or problem for that? Having a card and a weapon?
No, I haven't. I've had several run-ins with law enforcement or peace officers or whatever you want to call them. But no, I haven't had any problems.
Okay. Eric, thank you for your call. Thank you so much. Let's go now to John in Wisconsin. Hi, John. You're on Ground Zero.
In Wisconsin, we just passed a law that was signed a week or so ago, I believe, by the governor, that is going to allow for the cannabis oil. They've been trying to get medical marijuana passed, but this, I think, was a compromise that they took into the assembly and whatnot here, and did get that done. So here, the oil is now legal.
Good. That is a very valuable medicinal product, is the oil. I'm glad to hear that they made it legal where you are.
Unfortunately, it'll still affect people like me for my jobs. I haven't been able to use any kind of cannabis for about 30 years because at most jobs that I've had, I have to take drug screenings and have federal licensing and things. So, I still couldn't use it if I did need it, unfortunately.
Yeah, there needs to be, provisions being made, for things like, oil. See, that's the thing. We just need to make it legal across the board. And if it becomes a problem, it needs to be a health issue, not a law issue. And that's the whole point. It's that we need to grow up. We need to realize that, marijuana laws were basically laws that were put into play because of propaganda and lies. And now people still stick with this, and people are so hard against marijuana they're willing to make up or even believe nonsense. And that's what really bothers me about it. John, thank you for your call. I really appreciate you calling in tonight. Take care. 888-673-3700. That's 888-673-3700. Daniel Lewis Crumpton with us tonight on Ground Zero. More of your calls and more information on CannaSense coming up. Don't go away. 888-673-3700. We'll be back. Hi, Pam. You're on Ground Zero. Go ahead.
Hi. How you doing?
Good.
Our laws are different up here. Everything's federally regulated.
Uh-huh.
So medical marijuana laws are just straight across the country. It's not provincially or whatever. So I'm just recently getting my medical marijuana license. And with the CBDs, it does have THC, so you do have to have a license up here for that. And here, like I did a self-referral to go see a doctor. I didn't have to see my regular doctor to go get a medical marijuana license. And we have about 33 vendors across the country to choose from where we go to buy our marijuana and our oils and such. And it's all regulated by the federal government. And about a year from now, it's going to be legalized anyway. And the CBD oils have not much THC in them, a little bit, but not much. And the beauty of the CBD oil is you can put a few drops under your tongue, you can drop it in your coffee or your tea, and It's more of a body stone.
Yeah, well, it's not psychoactive. That's the thing, is that CBD is not a psychoactive property of the cannabis, and so you get a nice. You feel good. It's not a brain high. It's a feeling good high. Your body feels comfortable and without pain, and it's amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. There's just a small amount of THC in it. You know, you won't get a head high from it. It'll be your body that feels good.
Yeah, and you can even drive a car under CBD. You can drive a car. You can operate machinery. It's not psychoactive. It doesn't impair you. Yeah.
Yeah, and from what I was told, it takes about an hour to work, and then it'll last you about 8 hours. Now, that's a wonderful thing when you've got nerve damage like I have.
Topical is immediate, Pam. I've used it topically, and it's immediate.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. When I had my what they call the knots in my back, because, you know, I type all day and I'm up and around, and then I do the show and I'm sitting down and everything. I get these knots in my back, and when I get them, the only thing that will work right, I mean, sure, I can use Soma, that works, but it takes forever. But sometimes if I could just find some CBD, takes it off immediately. The pain goes away, and they relax. The knots relax, and so they're really good. Anyway, Pam, I'm out of time. I thank you for calling the program. Thank you so much.
Okay, thanks.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Daniel, one more time, you got to tell us about CannaSense. We only have a few minutes. Give your website and tell us the lowdown again for people who want to take part in it.
Yeah, no worries, man. And I hope to sponsor you guys in so you can start getting people help, too, on a daily basis. If you guys want information, go to downloadedcontent.com and click on the CannaSense Total Wellness page. And that's my personal website. It's not CannaSense's website. Theirs is CannaSense.com. So if you go there to sign up, actually, just make sure you tell them, who it is that sponsors you in. But on downloadedcontent.com, there's a tutorial video that will actually walk you through the process of setting up a doctor's appointment, to uploading your recommendation, to ordering your medicine from the apothecary. And if you have any questions or you need help or there's anything that you want me to kind of clarify for you, put your email and your number and your name in the pop-up box, and it'll go into my CRM thingy, and I'll get a hold of you as soon as I possibly can. But yeah, CannaSense is great, man. It's basically bypassing politicians sitting on their hands with an existing legal framework to get people access to their medical cannabis right now, right through the mail. And you'd be surprised, Clyde, that the people who are actually giving me the most static about this entire program is cannabis activists, who don't want to give the fight up. It's like, no, it can't be over. And I'm like, yeah, it's pretty much over. So,
well, let's just keep in mind that medical marijuana is winning. Recreational still have a lot of hurdles, but as I said before, Donald Trump seemed to be very, very friendly to the medical side. Sean Spicer said it's friendly. The only thing, though, is we have to now get beyond the Attorney General, and from there, I don't know where we're going to go. But, Daniel, thank you for being on the program tonight.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Clyde. I appreciate it.
You have a good night. Take care. Downloadedcontent.com. It's downloadedcontent.com. And we'll be back with more of your calls and more on this issue at 4:20 here on Ground Zero. We'll be back.